Welcome to SITECH South Tips and Tricks videos, sponsored by CISO Learning Solutions. This is going to be TBC, why we love to hate the variable offset command. It's a great command, but sometimes it just does not work the way we expect it to. The definition variable offset allows us to pick a line and then pick various spots along that line and continue to do a proportional offset as we create that line. And in this particular project that we're using, it's going to be to create a toe of slope inside the pond. So if we take a look at it, we're going to do this smaller pond that's inside a much bigger site. The toe of slopes have been omitted from this particular CAD file provided by the engineer. So what we're going to do is try to use the contours to define where the edges slope are. I'm going to turn off the text, and we're going to pick a line to use for an offset. And I'm going to pick one that totally encompasses this. I'll probably just pick this thicker line up here, elevation 165 throughout the line, its contour. And what I'm going to do is break this line at unique locations, like I'm breaking it there because I'm going to go from the corner of this intake on up to this, and then go from the corner of that intake on up to this. So I'm breaking this line in the middle so I can use it for going this way, then I'll use it for going that way. But if you notice, when I broke it here, this is what's left. So the beginning and ending of this line is over here somewhere, which would give us a lot of trouble down here. So I'm going to go down at this end and break it about halfway in between, because my toe slope is going to come in there and it's going to come around and in there. So now I've got this one side. So if I select the other side and I join it, break command, if I join it, so now I have a line on this side that goes from beyond where my toe is going to end and beyond where my toe is going to start. So just to make these stand out a little bit better, let's tweak them a little bit. We'll make this one have, I don't know, let's pick magenta for the color. And now let's go select this line and change its color to, let's say, green. So they stand out above and beyond any of the other contours. And each one is different. Now, what I'm going to do is use this particular command, the variable offset command. When I run it, this is the command. It's expecting me to name the line. So we're going to work on that west side. So we'll just call it the west toe. And we'll put this line on the break line layer. And I just make sure that those layers are turned on. And the line to offset, I'm going to pick the green line. It'll highlight it. And then I'm going to do a 3D with elevations. And you're going to see this is not going to be very friendly, but be that as it may, I want you to see why people love to hate this command. If I pick this as my first point, if you notice down here, it gave me distance along the offset and the elevation. And then I'm going to come down here and pick this one, and you notice it drew the proportional line. Then I'm going to pick this one, and pick this one, and pick this one. And close the command at this point, and it put this on the break line layer. And actually, I'm going to change that layer. If you have the line highlighted, it'll take me to that layer. And I think I'll pick blue, and I'll make it a little bit thicker. We'll go there. So now that line is a totally different color, but you can see how it's running. Now, having chosen to do it by 3D, if I toggle on the 3D markings and then select this line, west toe, and hit that, it only turns on the elevations down this line, and there's a whole bunch of them in there. But looking at this in 3D, we'll have it split the screen here so we can see them both. And if I exaggerate it to 3.0, that's my favorite exaggeration, and pick there, we'll just zoom in on this location and see what's going on. If I zoom in here, it missed. If I come over here and I look at this, it's actually not picking up the 160 elevation there. It's 159, 96, 400. You may say, you know, what's a foot amongst friends? But that line looks squirrely as well. So let's take a quick look at the profile of this line. And if we zoom in on this guy, all sorts of stuff is going on here. It's going flat, it's going up at 4%, 2%, 0, and it's even going almost vertically down at some location. And for me, that's unacceptable, and this is the good, the bad, and the ugly of using vertical offset. Is it a good command? Yes, it is. If you use it a little bit different than what we have here. I'm going to delete that line, and we're going to redraw that line. We'll run that command again. Variable offset, we'll call it west toe again. And the line we're going to use as our offset line will be this guy. But this time I'm going to go 2D. And I'll start picking my locations and go bang, 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 and bang. And close the command. You say, well, where's the line? I don't see it. Well, that's because we drew it in 2D. Okay? I'm going to use a different command now, excuse me, to elevate that line. This command here, and this command can be found in the data prep tab as well, but I've gathered into my ribbon commands I use all the time, and I don't have to jump through all the tabs. So I'm going to run this, and we're going to do an intersection, and I'm going to pick by layer the two topo layers and where this line crosses them, and then I'm going to pick the toe and just watch down here in the 3D view, and if I apply it, it brings the toe up here. And now if I do a vertical profile of this, look at the profile now. 2%, 0.8, 0.9, 0.76, all the way around to here. Looks much better. So let's do the same thing going the other way. We run variable offset, and we'll call this the east toe. And we'll pick our magenta line that we set up, and we'll stay at 2D. We'll come in here, we'll go bang, pick the corners of these, and if you notice, it's drawing a nice proportional line in here that would replicate the toe of slope defined by where these contours begin and end. And then if I right mouse click, elevate lines, do the same thing again, select by layer, and then pick our toe line and hit apply. All of a sudden, bang, it pops up there. Let's take a look at the profile view of this line. And in this case, the line's running that way based on what happened here. I can always reverse the direction of the line, but you notice it's coming up at 2%, 0.7, 0.78, 0.75. nice even slope around here. So if we create a surface now, and I'm going to pick a reduced set, so we'll call this the lower pond, and I'll pick a color. I like the medium green, and what I'm going to do is select these lines, and that line, and I think that has that's just the contours. If we apply and say OK, we now have, this is the surface without the toes applied. And if you notice, it's radiating across here. Probably a slicer through this area is going to notice it's coming down kind of weird. All right, if we come back here, and maybe I'll just kill that slicer command for right now. If I grab this line and our other toe, and I add them to the surface, lower pond, and add. Now if we look at the shape of the pond, it's coming down real nice to where that toe would be. And now if I cut a section across here, let's see what this is going to look like. Just run from here across there. Look at that thing coming down there, nice. Should have the same thing here, same thing across here. So this has made a huge difference in the inner shape of the pond. So if we go back and we look at my document, we look at what we did. We defined the offset lines, cleaned them up, broke them, and then we did the variable offset, but we used 3D, and we decided that 3D is not going to work. We came back, we got rid of the line, came back and did 2D on either side and elevated them by the contours they were crossing, and it produced an entirely different shape. And so now if we created the pond surface and then added those break lines, it worked out very well. Okay, now that we've got the toe slopes defined through the pond, this lower pond, we're going to look at finishing it just one little spot in the upper end, actually the southeast corner, where you have a curved nose. So we're going to take a look at that and figure out how to solve grading that in. So if we go back in here, and we're talking about this area through here, where if we look at the pond, you can see that there's a slope up from this edge of this contour. It's sloping up at a steeper grade. And if we want to look at this grade, I'll cut a slice through here, from there through to there. And it's this slope right here. Here's your 3-to-1 slope coming down the side. And then you have this graded across here, and then down to 1% through the bottom of the pond. Okay, I'm going to show you a method of solving that. And again, we're going to use the variable offset command, but a little bit differently than we did for the toe slopes. And we're going to create a new toe slope where this should run right up through here based on a 1% up and then a 3-to-1. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a line that's kind of halfway in the middle of here, create a line string. So if I go over to the line string command, and I just leave it as a break line, and I'm going to put it on the break line layer with the other lines that we have, and I say OK. And if I come in here and I just draw it from this location perpendicular to a segment and do it right there, it picked up the two elevations, 163 and 164. All right, so now what we need to do is determine how far down it will go at 3-to-1 before it would intercept a 1% slope coming up this way. Well, there is an option within the line string command to actually do this. So if I select this line and I edit it, and I'm going to add a VPI, a vertice. I'm not going to do anything geometry-wise horizontally to the line. So I'm going to add that, and I'm going to add a slope intercept. Looking at how far we have off here and how far we have off here, this point is going to probably occur somewhere along in this. I'm giving it an approximate location. And then I want to go down at 3:1 ratio, a negative 3:1, and then I want to continue at a negative 1% to the end of the line. And if I hit the save button, there is the information, and that's the location. It was pretty close to where I eyeballed it. Now I'm going to add this to the surface so I get a location in the surface. If I add this as a surface member to the lower pond, and I add it, and you'll notice now that we're getting a link through here. All right, so now I'm prepared to use this line, that location, and this line, and create a line that will be an offset from here. We'll use the variable offset command again. So if I run the variable offset command, I'm going to leave it in 2D mode. We saw all the hiccups we got from the 3D mode. The line that I'm going to offset is going to be this line right here, and I'm going to go from this location to that location to that location, and I have created what I believe will be the toe. And now if I grab this line, and I'm going to use this elevate line command, and I'm going to have it pick up the elevation when it crosses this guy and the end of this guy and the end of that guy, those lines, and I'm going to do it to that line. And if I hit apply, you'll notice now you got an elevation there, elevation here, and the same elevation here. And if I look at the profile view, you can see it's going up at like 0.4 and down at 0.54. I think we are good at this point. So now we can see it in there, and if I add that guy to the surface, I added it to the wrong surface. The new surface, I need to add it to the lower. There we go. Now we got the correct shape, and if I take a slice through this surface, now we have our 1% up to our 3:1. And finishes out the toes all the way around this lower pond. Now, this being a bigger site, I ended up doing it across the rest of the pond on this job. We have the edges, the toes, all through here. But I'm just wanted to demonstrate these couple of activities. And I think this finishes us up. If we go back and look at our document finishing the end of the pond, this is where I drew a line string, and I used the option within the line string to do a slope intercept of a negative 3:1 and a 1%, and it placed where that break would occur, and then I used that break to do another variable offset toe, and then add it to the surface, and it pushed this up into the surface as a nice flat arc. This has been the use of the variable offset command for the linear toe slopes coming up, and then that little curved nosed up in the end. Hopefully this will be helpful. Thank you very much, and this is the end of this session. Describe or demonstrate the same process using a option embedded in the line string command that's relatively recent, that has been added in the last maybe year or so. Not really sure when it was added, but I'm going to delete these break lines that we put in to this surface. If I delete them, our surface is going to go back to where it's just the contours creating it. And what I'm going to do is create a line string and leave it on the break line layer, and we'll call it, this one will be the west toe, west toe, and I'm going to start this at that same beginning point right there. And now instead of using the straight, I'm going to go down here to an option called offset, and then I'm going to pick the line that we set up and cleaned up a little bit as the line to offset and do a linear. You can do a S-curve or a straight line, but we'll just use this, and I'll come down here to that point, and I'll come down. I have to focus each time before I pick the point. It's not jumping to the normal focus location. It's actually letting me pick a different, okay, and notice it's giving them the lines. And if I go to the profile viewer and look, it's got the nice even slope that we were looking for. We come over to the other side and do the same thing, run the create line string, say okay, and we're going to start it at this point and go to offset and select this line as our offset line and go to our next location and then highlight down here and go to this location and highlight down here and go to this location. And go to this location. And if we profile view this line, just like the one that we created before, and it seemingly is simpler. Let's see how it works here on the curved nose. Oh, I left the name the west toe. And our initial coordinate will be right there. Go to offset. We'll select it to follow that line. And our next point will be, let me turn that surface back on so I can grab that location right there. And come back here and grab this one. And if I look at the profile view of this, that's basically the same, if I remember correctly. And now we'll just select each one of these, add them back to the surface. Our surface should look correct following this around. We look up, what did I do? We look up there. We've got the nice nose slope going up into that. It did the same thing. And that just might be a little easier and friendlier than our love to hate variable offset command. And I've demonstrated both the variable offset command as well as using this new option within the line string command. Thank you for listening.